Video thing real quick and then we'll begin. Are we ready? Hi everybody, this is the archive of the Fort Chip session number 2, Agent of Change. So let's go ahead and start. Good evening.
Good evening.
That was really poor. Good evening.
Good evening.
Wow, that's pretty good. Okay, so this evening we're going to step into the first competency. Before we do that, everybody say hi to Tim. He's new.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, Tim. But I think, Tim, you're going to be up here most of the time now, moving forward, right? So goodbye to James. Hello, Tim.
We didn't even get to say goodbye to James.
I know.
That's not
That's not right.
fair.
He'll say goodbye to you.
I think I need to write him a letter too.
But before we get into tonight, I want to do a quick reflection of the last 3 weeks. So somebody tell me something. You know, we all met face to face, and then we tried to stay connected via the internet. So somebody tell me something you're taking away from that first 3 weeks, whether it's the leadership history survey, whether it was the change continuum, maybe you took the challenge of contacting somebody that made a significant impact in your life. Somebody tell me something that you're taking away from that our first couple weeks together. Yes.
I contacted my old high school principal.
Did you really? And okay.
And I got some information, and he's writing articles for a Newfoundland magazine that's called Their Home.
Okay.
Everybody knows Their Home. And he was probably one of the most influential teachers.
And how did that conversation go?
He remembered me, which was really
Did he really?
cool.
And what did you say? And what did you say to him?
I told him what I was doing and told him a little bit about you and, you know, what we were doing and how we were going about it. And he's like, wow, you know, that sounds like really good. Does he ever come down here? And then, of course, I said, do you remember? He goes, I went to Marystown for that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
So it was, yeah.
And when you told him that he made a significant difference in your life, what was his response?
Actually, he was very quiet for a second. And he said, you know, you always hope that you are as an educator, but you're never always really sure. He said, and it's very, very seldom that someone comes back to you and says, yeah, you did make a difference.
And when you got off the phone, you're off the phone now, you've talked with this special person in your life, you've relayed to him the difference that he made. How did you feel?
Oh, I felt fantastic. Empowered, actually.
How many of you know what we're talking about right now? Right? So the idea here was that you were doing, when you did the leadership history survey, you were looking at the people that made a significant difference in your life, your best boss or best leader, and then we also talked about your worst boss, your worst leader. The challenge was to identify that individual or individuals that made a significant difference in your life and contact them and make them aware of the difference that they made. What was the point of doing that? Why did I want Doreen or any of you to call that longtime high school principal, let them know the difference that they made in your life and so on? What was the point? Why did I want Doreen or any of you to do that? Now, if you remember the coaching session, you heard it, but why do you think? Why did I want you to do that? And what does that have to do with us developing as leaders? Think a little bit. What do you think was the purpose of the exercise?
Well, to let him know.
Okay, so a part of it was just gratitude, right? In a day and age where gratitude is few and far between, taking an opportunity to lighten somebody's burden and make them aware of a difference that they made. And just listen to the comment that he shared with her. You know, you always hope you made a difference, which might imply that he was questioning now in the senior years of his life, did I make a difference? So that gift that you gave, but why else? Anybody else? What's the point?
Well, I just start them off. Yes. Kind of like paid forward, I guess.
What's that?
Paid forward kind of.
Okay. What's the point to you as a leader?
Stepping out of your comfort zone maybe a little bit.
Certainly. I've got to now make a phone call, go have a conversation. Yes?
Leaving a legacy behind. So
10, 20, 30, 50 years.
You are that principal to somebody else. So Doreen's principal is Doreen. And 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, when I'm a lot balder and a lot chubbier and I come to Fort Chip and I'm like, call the leader that made a difference in your life. And someone calls Doreen, they're like, hi Doreen, the chubby old brown man told me to call you and tell you that you made a significant... So the point was what you just grabbed. I am that person. Or at least I have the what?
The ability.
I have the potential, I have the opportunity. And what will I be? And here's the tough part. Question number 9 and question number 10. For those of you that don't recall, question number 9, who was your best boss and why? Question number 10, who was your worst boss and why? And side note, don't call your worst boss and tell them. Right? Don't do that. But here's the deal. Here's the deal, and listen to this very, very closely. You are either 9 or 10. Well, no, I'm not, Ian. I'm kind of in between. Then you might as well be 10. We should be striving to make a significant difference in our followers' lives every single day. Long time ago, when I had a lot more direct reports than I do today, I think at the time I had 48 direct reports. So completely unmanageable. But anyways, 48 direct reports. And I bought all of them construction helmets, hard hats. And of course they were puzzled, right? How many of you know they were puzzled? When I handed them all out, they're like, what are we starting to build a new casino? What are we doing? And the point was, you're in the people building business, that's it. That's the business you're in. You're in the people building business. You build people every day. And you have an opportunity to make a significant difference in their life. Now, jump forward now some 15, 16 years. The leadership has fundamentally changed. I can now be a builder, a community builder as a peer. I can be a community builder as a neighbor. I can be a community builder as just a resident. In every situation that I have in a small community like this, I have an opportunity to bring value to another human being. As I bring value to you, as I contribute to you, as I give you insight, a kind word, as I bring you wisdom, as I help you get something done for your family, for your organization, I am a leader because I become a person of influence. Not because of my title, but because I'm getting things done for you and you and you and you. I guarantee you, and I've already been told, but I already knew this, that there's leaders in this community that have no title whatsoever. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
And some of them are leading negatively.
Right.
But they don't have any title. And then some of them are leading positively, and they don't have any title. So please don't sit here and say to yourself, but I'm not a leader, I don't have a title. You have the potential for leadership. So question number 9 was saying, okay, somebody help me get to where I'm at. If I really want to pay that person back, I'll go make the same or more of a contribution to others like they made to me. Mine, Bill Bell. Bill Bell. Bill Bell. He was a coach, made a significant difference in my life. Last week in Ontario at the York Athletic Directors Association, there was a scholarship, Bill Bell scholarship. Now none of those coaches, none of those athletic directors have ever met Bill Bell. They don't even know who Bill Bell is. But Gina and I started a little scholarship in Coach Bell's name, and now 6 coaches got to go to a training. Bill Bell. And I think to myself, Coach Bell, who died a long time ago, he died a long time ago, 30 years ago. I think Coach Bell, depending on your worldview, looks down and says, well done, Ian. Good job. So maybe the person that made a significant difference in your life isn't here. But you know what you could do? You could take $5 a week for the next 52 weeks, or the next 50 weeks, $5 a week. That'd be $250. And you walk over to the local elementary school and you start a bursary, or you start a RESP in somebody's name. $5 a week. I mean, let's be honest. Most of us could probably scrounge up $5 a week. You take that $5 a week, you put it in your little drawer, you take the $250, you walk down and you say, I'm giving this in the name of blank, who made a significant difference in my life. And then that kid, you go and tell the story of blank and the difference that they made. So it's funny, honoring is different than remembering. On Remembrance Day, we stand and remember. But if we want to honor people, then you do something. So I hope you'll reflect on that question number 9. I hope that you'll say to yourself, am I worthy of the investment that that person that made a difference in my life, am I worthy of the investment that they made in me? And is their investment in me returning any fruit? And how much fruit? 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, 50 times, 100 times? And then how many lives will I touch? Imagine if just 20% of the population of Fort Chip went into that mindset. What would it do to the community? Honestly, what would it do? Oh, transform, right? Completely transform. Okay, what if just the 18 or 20 or whatever it is that one way or another are going through this program? What if just 20 people started that mindset? That momentum, right? Okay. Somebody else, something quickly that you're taking away from our first little bit of time together, our first 3 weeks. Something that you took away from our first 3 weeks. So Doreen made the phone call. Anybody else? Something you're taking away from our last teaching session? Maybe you participated in the coaching session. Maybe one of the emails. Something you're taking away. Very silent. Someone's got to talk. Yes.
What I took away within these 3 weeks when I had to do the survey, watch all of your videos, I figured out that, you know what, this is all about me. And it took me back to, because you asked about our teacher, our boss. And then it's like, so I went way back. And I was like, I get it. That is why who we are today, it's our past that made us who we are today, even to deal with others, or to deal with, like for me, I deal with you. So now I see why, you know what I mean?
Yes. So let me ask a cultural question, which I cannot relate to, and maybe only a few of you in the room can relate to. I am not Aboriginal. I am not. I don't have First Nations blood flowing through me, Métis blood flowing through. I don't have any of that. But as a cultural observation now, why for generation after generation after generation, was it so important that we pass down the history of where we came from to children in Aboriginal communities and the like? Why? Why was that such an important part, or why is it, or was it such an important part of the connectivity and the future and the livelihood and the vibrancy of a community? Why was it so important to teach where we had come from and teach of elders of old, that history, right? Why? Who can tell me why it was so important that occurred? When a kid knows where they've come from, they have a better shot at identity. Love, care, support. Now let's jump to Europe. Let's look to Europe now, right? So different culture. Why are there statues from 703 BC and then another statue from 610 AD? Why? History, culture. Why in the Hebrew culture do they have a list of all of the, and then this father to that father to this father to that father to this father? Identity. So the other reason that I wanted you to look back was you could see your identity. Now think about kids today. How many of them are desperately searching for identity? And we culturally have done a poor job of connecting them to an identity. My goofy family. So my family, my wife is a Hispanic Latina, and I'm adopted probably, who knows what I am, you know, Persian, Turkish, Armenian, something. So my kids are like, well, what are we? And so we were like, we are, let's make it up. And so we had our kids create a little family crest. And it's got a dolphin, and it's got a lion, and it's got like this thing that's half bear, half donkey or something. I don't know what it is. And my kids, little Nia and Nadia, created this little thing. The dolphin, you know why? Because first of all, they're like rainbows, and they're really cool. And Dad, we're fast, and dolphins are fast, but they're gentle. We're not sharks. Well, then what's the lion all about? Oh, because when we need to be tough, Dad, we're tough. And then what about the donkey, bear, lion thing you got going on there? I don't know, we just thought that was pretty cool. What was my wife and I's point? Identity. Who are we? What are we? From a leadership standpoint, if I can help people find identity, they'll connect with me. They'll connect with our organization. Don't think I'm correct? Do an analyzation of why kids join gangs. Now, I would suggest to you that doesn't change. Adults are looking for identity too. When do you see that? I'm part of the car club. I do everything about cars. We love cars. Really? Seriously? The car? How many of you know people that are searching for identity? Yeah. So, leadership history survey, you started to go through that exercise. How did I get here? Where did I come from? Identity, hope, purpose. In many First Nations communities, I've said this. First 6 Nations of the Grand River, many places I've said, hey, dude, you have the answers. You know how to do this thing. Just keep teaching the identity of a people, of a purpose, of a meaning, spiritually, practically, and the like. So the lesson that we can learn isn't just for First Nations people. We see it all over the globe. When we get away from identity, we get ourselves in trouble. And that's the challenge of Canada, identity. Who are we? What are we? What does it mean to be a Canadian? It's not enough to say, we're just not that. The definition of Canadian is point to the South and say, we're not that. That's not effective. And that's a personal opinion. I'm not speaking, that's just me personally. You better get an identity. We all better get an identity. What does it mean? Values, purpose, culture. Then allows me to feel like I'm connected to something bigger than myself. When I feel connected to something bigger than myself, I'm willing to give my time, talent, and treasure. When I don't feel connected to something bigger than myself, I hold back time, talent, and treasure. You want a better community? Let identity create. Negatively, identity creates as well. If I said 2 words, 3 words, Jane and Finch. Anybody ever heard those 3 words? Jane and Finch. What's the identity that you associate with that? Crime, murder, da-da-da-da. Right. But you know what? If you go to the corner of Jane and Finch, it's Toronto. It's a downtown urban area. Most murders in all of Canada at one point were at the corner of Jane and Finch or in that neighborhood. They have taken on an identity. I know I'm long-winded in this, but leaders see this. And leaders understand, let me give a human being an identity. That's why in a workplace, I help an employee find an identity, a purpose, a meaning. I see their talent, I see their ability, and I hold up a mirror to help them see their own. Because I know if they have an identity, they will give an allegiance to the organization. Pride. Later on, in the next couple weeks, we'll talk about how do you build community pride. How do you use pride to connect people to something bigger than themselves? How do you use pride as a performance tool to get the most from people? And how do you intentionally develop pride in a person, in an organization, and in a community? We'll talk about that. But it begins with you understanding some of the basic principles. So the exercise was call. The exercise was look in your past. Some of that certainly was for you to look within yourself, but it was also to teach some bigger principles that can be used outside of yourself. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, anything else? And then we'll jump into this time. Okay, so if you are new to the conversation, right? We have some people that are new. The beauty of this program is you can't get behind. It's not possible to get behind because everything is archived. So you always have an opportunity. Now, if some of you were saying right now, wow, Ian, I went through the whole 3 weeks and I watched everything and I didn't catch that. Now that sounded really, really good, dude, but I didn't get any of what you just laid down. No problems. Go back and read an email. Go back and watch a video as you have time. So how many of you ever read a book and it said one thing to you, and then you went back and read it later and it said a whole other thing to you? You'll find that that will happen in this, and that's why the portal is there, to go back and revisit it, to go back and get a different take on it. Now that you've heard Doreen, now you say, oh, now I understand what that exercise was. okay, let me make that phone call now. Or now that you've heard what the journey could be for her and what it meant to her, you gain something else. So don't be afraid to go back and revisit. You can't get behind. Well, if I go back and revisit, I'll get behind on what we're doing now. You can't get behind. Just, you can't. This is a self-paced gig. And all of us will evolve and learn at a different pace. Okay, tonight. So now we're actually going to start talking about tangible skills. So the first 3 weeks we talked about looking inside and introspection and thinking. Now we start to teach some competencies. And if you remember, we're teaching the competencies of today's effective community leader. So just as a quick reminder, I said this to you before, a community builder, it's a philosophy. They have the ability to build partnerships and consensus. They have the ability to inspire and move others towards a shared goal. They are someone who can tap into the collective intelligence and energy of stakeholders, acting as a catalyst and convener. They can provide direction when others don't know what to do. They don't require, they inspire. They are more about influence that comes from vision and passion and commitment than they are about demanding from people and intimidation. They pay attention to and respond to trends and issues impacting our communities. In other words, they sense possibilities and innovate while others are stuck in the outdated thinking. They realize the world has flattened and titles don't mean much anymore. It's more about following through. Like, I'll tell you right now, if Doreen ever needed anything, done. Because this lady, every time I've asked her to do something for me, she delivers the goods every single time. And so, if she ever needed anything from me, she has influence with me because she has found herself to be trustworthy with me. Maybe some of you have experienced the same. So Doreen called me on the phone and said, hey, can you help with this? Done, because she delivered. So sometimes we can gain influence just by doing what we say we're going to do. Today's community builders are authentic, honest, and direct. And they know, and they genuinely care about other human beings. That's a community builder. But now we've got to learn how to do that. It's one thing to talk about leadership principles, is another thing to actually enhance your skills to be able to do those ideal things. Look at what it says here. It says, by now you've taken the leadership history survey. We've talked about that. From that, we get a snapshot of how you gained your leadership style. Remember, all of you have a leadership style. Even those of you that are youthful in the room, you have a leadership style. It came from somewhere. It either was intentionally developed through, Maggie's going to Gonzaga School of Leadership. That's big time, man. Give her a round of applause for getting in. That's pretty cool. Very, very cool. That's big time. So she is intentionally developing her leadership approach. Or if it just organically grew up over a period of time. Either way, you have a leadership approach. And remember, the question I asked last time was, is it the one that times require? Because we all agreed that times have changed. So whether we intentionally developed it or it organically grew up, is it what we need today? Once you know where you've been, evaluate where you're at, which we're going to do tonight, and begin to clarify where you want to go as a leader, you will have a real chance of reaching your leadership potential. As I have said before, if you move closer to your best, then your departments or organizations move closer to their best. If that happens, our communities become their best. So what kind of leadership competencies will you embrace? We're going to talk about the first one tonight. So turn to this page right here. Turn to this page right here. Because from now on, you're going to take a little self-survey. No handout? I got one for you. No, see that? We're all good. Well, maybe I do. I have one right here. There you go. And you're going to need both of these. You'll need both of those handouts. That's okay. So turn to this page. So from now on, whenever we meet, you will always start with a little self-survey. The point of the self-survey is to take the competency. Remember, what's a competency? A complex set of skills, abilities, attributes, and attitudes that make up a thing that make you good at a chosen job. So to drive a front-end loader, certain competencies. To be good at administration, certain competencies. To be a great NHL player, certain competencies. To be a great leader, certain competencies. So our first competency is agent of change. Before you stop taking the survey. Wow. Follow the rules. Agent of change. I think in today's day and age, you have to know how to change something. You have to be able to change something. You have to be able to come into an environment and change it. You have to be able to walk into a department and change it. Walk into a neighborhood and change it. The basic fundamentals of changing something we need to understand in today's day and age if we're going to be an effective leader, because we're in a time of rapid change. So we better know and be skilled at changing. So here's the competency, agent of change. Here's the descriptor. Today's leader understands, demonstrates, and exerts influence by building trusting relationships to act as a catalyst for change. So how does today's agent of change things? What does it say? How do we change things? By trust, and using that trust, influence. So today's agent of change doesn't do this. We're changing around here, and you better shut your mouth, and we're going to get it done, and that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
Today's agent of change doesn't do this. You know what, Margaret? You know, I'm just going to tell you that Dana over there, she's the... Dana. Sorry. RCMP lady. Anyways. I remember that part. So today, if I want to change something, I realize that the only way I'm going to do it is build trusting relationships with key people of influence. Now later tonight, we're going to talk about how do I do that. I'm going to give you a strategy for if I was coming into a dynamic and I wanted to change it, what would I do? And whether that's a community, whether that's a nation, or whether that's just a clique. How would I change that? We'll talk about that in a few minutes. So that the competency is agent of change. But we realize that in today's day and age, for all the reasons we said last time we were together, I can't demand it, I can't intimidate it, I can't threaten it. That's not going to get things changed. I got to do it through influence that comes from trusting relationships. So I want you to take this really, really quick self-survey. Now, here's the way the self-survey works. 10, I am totally like that. 1, I am absolutely nothing like that. Or in between. This is the point of the self-survey. In the 3-week time frame, you only have a limited amount of time for learning. By taking the self-survey, it helps you focus on the things you need to learn, the gaps that you have. Some of you are 10 in some of these categories. You want to focus on the areas where you're 3 and 2 and 4. And when I start talking about those over the next 3 weeks, your ears perk up so that you can focus your limited time and energy on those specific topics. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'll read them randomly and you just go through them. Okay, but I'll just read them out loud. You start. Either you're a 1, you're a 10, or somewhere in between, ready, set, go. But I'll just read them randomly. I believe I can make a difference. Now, before you just jump past that, really think about it. Do you believe you can make a difference? Or are you caught in that thing of it doesn't matter anyways, I can't really change anything? Do you believe you can make a difference? I'm aware that people learn and communicate in different ways. I can change my communication style to meet the needs of another human being. I understand my emotions and the impact that they have on the performance, on my performance and the performance of others. I can facilitate activities that help remove attitudinal barriers. And as was pointed out by the nice young lady, I have that twice, I apologize. I think of what I want the outcome to be before things begin. I think of the impact of my thoughts and words and action on others. I keep an even keel despite ups and downs in my life. Again, just flow through this on your own. I'm just reading them randomly. I can apply strategies for trust building. I understand the political governance at the local, provincial, and national level. I nurture positive relationships with elected officials as well as community and corporate leaders. I can influence the political decision-making process. I apply strategies for ensuring positive public relations if I'm part of an organization. I can apply a diverse and sophisticated set of facilitation models, skills, and techniques. Okay. Once you're done, just lift up your eyes, and that way I'll know you're done. Now, those are indicators. So, a competency, I'll know where you stand in that competency based on those indicators, but it's a self-survey. Only you can really answer the questions. What it really boils down to, in my opinion, is trust. So we'll give everyone a second to kind of finish up the survey. Finish up the survey. And no cheating. You can't look at somebody else's. Please, no cheating. Please, no cheating. Okay. So somebody tell me if agents of change understand that we can't change things like we have in the past, that won't be as effective, then where does influence come from? Tell me the kind of people that influence you. Okay? People you can trust. Yes? Positive. People that can motivate you. Somebody explained to me, when you're going to take a trip, how do you decide where you're going and where you'll stay today, and compare that for me to where you have decided that you'll stay in the past? You're going on a trip.
Experience.
Right? Experience. What's that? Others telling you. Marketers call it influence purchasing. It's influence purchasing. In the past, we would go to the Hilton website or the Motel 6 website. And before that, we might look at an advertisement in a newspaper, on the radio, on TV. Today, where do we go? We go to the internet, but where do we specifically go? Do we go to the organization's website?
No.
Where do we go? We go to Google and we go to TripAdvisor or something like that, don't we? And we look for how many stars, how many smiley faces, how many whatevers. You are influenced by a bunch of people who are not experts. In the past, you were influenced by the travel advisor, the travel agent, the whatever. Today, you fundamentally reject that. And you go to a bunch of people who are not experts and are not paid. They have influence over you. Now stop and think about that. Isn't that crazy? We are influenced by people we've never met, talked to, seen, anything, who have just given their opinions, and we assume that they're legitimate, right?
And that they're like-minded people.
And that they're like-minded people. What's your point, Ian? My point is, for some reason, you trust that. So how do we build trust? How could you walk into a new work environment and build trust with a group of people? How could you walk into a community and build trust? How could you take over an organization and build trust? Somebody walk me through the strategy you might use to build trust with other people. Yes?
Well, like for me, when I meet somebody that I've never seen, I'll go introduce myself.
Okay.
I'm such and such.
Okay.
Respect.
Okay. Somebody else. What would you do?
You have to be consistent in your behaviors, gossiping, stuff like that, doing clicky stuff. That's not going to get you anywhere.
It's not going to get you anywhere.
You need to be committed. You need to be dependable.
Okay. Very good. Honest.
Uh,
So I think that if I want to gain the trust of other human beings, there is some basic fundamental steps that must be taken. And I think it has to be very intentional. Because if you remember last time we were together, we said people are less trusting than they've ever been in our lifetime. How do you remember that? And do you agree with that? Yeah. So now I've got to be overt in my attempt to develop trust. So what I want to walk you through now is a formula that can be utilized to build trust. So number one, you got to be vocationally competent. What do you think I mean by that, vocationally competent? What does that mean? You got to know what the hell you're doing. You got to understand what you're doing, and you got to know what you're doing. Yeah, but Ian, what happens when we get put in a position where we're in a job or a volunteer organization or whatever, and we don't know what we're doing?
research. Then you're honest about it, and you find out where you get the answer.
And here's the other tough part. How many of you in the room aspire to high levels of leadership? Does anybody aspire to a high level of leadership? Want to be a big time leader? Okay. So here's the lesson you have to learn, young lady. There will come a place in time where you'll ascend to a certain position of leadership that everybody underneath you will know more than you do. So when I was overseeing 1,100 people, you could guarantee that every one of my direct reports knew more about what they were doing in their specific vocation than I did. But I was an expert in what? Leadership. They were experts in their vocation. I was an expert in leading a large organization. So at some point, the vocational competency is not enough. At some point, you have to be leadership competent. How do most people get promoted, though? Because they're really good at what? At that thing. But that doesn't mean they're a good leader. How many of you ever had a boss that was really good at their task but was horrible at leading? It's tough. Very, very tough. So what we're talking about is, when I say vocationally competent, yes, I want to know the task to the best of my ability. But there will come a point in time when you ascend to a level of leadership that you can't possibly know as much as the people you're leading.
But that's why you have those direct people. That's what they're there to do.
So here's the lesson I'd like you to take. You must always bring value. So even though this young lady, Megan, might be more vocationally competent, I'm doing something to make her life easier, simpler, better. I'm bringing some value to her as her leader. If I can bring her some value, she'll start to trust me. Maybe the value I bring is I'm really good at working with other groups, and I make her situation because I clear the brush for her. Maybe it's because I bring her tools and resources. It's not going to be because I kiss her bum. Excuse my language. It's not going to be because I'm her buddy, her pal. Because those two things will eventually get me in trouble. So what I would suggest to you is, one, be vocationally competent. If I'm not vocationally competent, as you said, admit it. I don't know as much as all of you, so I will bring value in other ways. And then be intentional about the value you bring. So let's do a quick little exercise. I want you to write down a couple of things that you could bring followers. You're a leader. Write down a couple of things that you could bring. What is it you have to offer? What is it you could bring to another human being that would bring them value, that you could start to build trust with them? And then after you've written down a couple, somebody say a couple. Somebody tell me something you could bring. I'm going to move this table. Is that okay? Am I good, Tim, if I sit right there? Anything. Well, it could be in a work environment, could be, what can you bring of value to somebody that you which would then lend them to trust you more? You could be competent in that area, even though it might not be the vocation. Think now. Now remember, here's the situation. You got dropped into a situation where you have people around you that know more than you do. Right? You're in a situation where there are people around you that know more about the task than you know about the task. So what could you bring of value to them? What could you bring of value to them? Okay, so you've started to jot a couple down, hopefully. Somebody share one with me. Okay, you could share compassion. You could care. So the value that you could bring would be a listening ear. The value that you would bring would be an understanding attitude. The value that you would bring would be a compassionate heart. How many of you agree with me? In a leadership setting, that would be a value. Okay, somebody else. Somebody share something with me of value that you could bring. Okay, so maybe you don't know anything about the job that's going on, but you look around and go, this freaking thing is unorganized. And I'm a really organized person, so let me just tidy and clean, making sure that I'm not offending, but let me just get things organized and make the flow simpler. How many of you agree with me? That'd bring value. Okay, somebody else. Okay, so maybe I don't know, I'm not an expert in every, but I'm a generalist. I know a lot about a lot of things. And I bring value because I can bring enlightenment about a subject matter that maybe some other person doesn't have. Okay, somebody else. What's that? Empathy. I'm empathetic to your situation. I don't necessarily agree, but I try my best to understand you. And you are validated because you get a sense that I understand you. Here's my point. If I'm going to be in a leadership position where there's others that I know for a fact know more than me, then I'm going to say, obviously, you all know more than me. How many of you ever had a leader that tried to fool everybody? Just give it up, dude. Don't even try it. Just say, I don't know. But, and like I've even said this, I don't know as much as all of you, but here's how I believe I can bring value and what you can expect from me. Boom, boom, boom. I'll be empathetic. I'll be compassionate. I'll try to organize things. I'll try to see what I can do to develop some partnerships with other groups. This is what I'll do to bring value to you. If you had a leader that did what I just said, would you respect them more, yes or no? Would you be willing to at least give them a chance to lead you, yes or no? That's called influence. So, one, be vocationally competent. If I'm not, then intentionally, which means from the beginning, pick out those things of value you can bring them regularly. All right, number 2, open communication. You want to be trusting today, you want to build trust with people today, then you better be open in your communication. Now let's talk about communication. Now later we will have a more in-depth conversation about communication. But I want you to start to think about your communication style. What kind of a communicator are you? Through this filter. There's only 4 types of communication. There's only 4 filters of communication. That's all there is, just 4. So first, fact-based communicators. First, fact-based communicators. Give me a hint. What do you think a fact-based communicator sounds like? What's that?
Statistics.
Numbers. Actualities, linear, step by step by step by step by step sequence, fact-based communicator. Okay, then there's emotion-based communicators. Now the emotion-based communicator, that's the person who, when you sit to communicate with them, talk to them, whatever, however they're feeling, this second is what you get. How many of you know somebody like that? How many of you are, no, don't tell me, right? Watch the train wreck. Watch this train wreck. The fact-based communicator and the emotion-based communicator need to sit down and have a potentially contentious conversation. You're awesome. Thank you very much. Need to sit down and have a potentially contentious conversation. This person is talking an absolute linear conversation, sequential conversation, numbers, sequence, and the like, actualities. This person is talking about how they feel in the moment. Do we have a train wreck? Absolute train wreck. The agent of change understands that people communicate differently than they do and is willing to adjust their style to meet. In the past, the leader expected you to do what? Bend. Not anymore. People go like this. I ain't bending. Followers cross their arms and say, no, you better figure out how I do things. How many of you ever had, you know what I'm talking about? So the leader's smart enough to understand we're in a user-driven society, and the leader says this, fine, you're a fact-based communicator, let me communicate with you in facts. You're an emotion-based communicator, let me be intellectual, let me be emotionally, have a high enough emotional IQ to adjust to you. Because all I'm trying to do is build a trusting relationship. So the zero sum, I win, you lose mentality, out. Out. Get rid of it. Now I got to figure out how we can both win. So, fact-based, emotion-based, values-based communicator. Values-based communicator. Now listen, what does that mean? Does that mean religion? No, it doesn't mean religion. It means however your life developed, you have a unique set of values. Even the mafia has a unique set of values. And if I understand that unique set of values, I can do what? Communicate with them. When I was doing some work to open up a youth center down in the States, and it was in the epicenter of gang activity at the corner of Bresson and Yorrie, 2 cops had been killed. Officer Bohatch and another officer had been killed in that area, and a young boy, a gang member, Hiram, had been killed. And we wanted to open a youth center. Gina and I, my wife and others, that wanted to open a youth center. And so I understood I needed to know the values of the South Side Locos. That was the gang in the area. I needed to understand the values of the South Side Locos. And if I understood the values of the South Side Locos, I had a better opportunity to communicate with the South Side Locos. So what was one of the values? Respect. So I went and met with the head of the South Side Locos, Sal Sleepy Rico. I am not exaggerating. Sal Sleepy Rico. 19-year-old kid. Already been in prison a couple times. Sal Sleepy Rico. And I went and met with him behind a strip mall, midnight on a Saturday night. I came driving up in my little Jeep Cherokee. And here came, stereotypically, but here came these lowriders pulling up. And I thought to myself, what in the hell am I doing? But we wanted to open up this youth center. So I get out of the Jeep Cherokee, close it. I puffed myself up as big as I could get. And here come these kids, right? And they're like, what's up? I was like, hi, Mr. Sal, Mr. Sleepy, Mr. Rico. Don't really know what to call you, but hey. And I said, this is a true story. I'm kind of abbreviating, but it is a true story. And I said to him, I said, hey, Sal, maybe you heard we bought the old Seventh-day Adventist school on the corner of Breston and Yoring. We're trying to open a school and a youth center there. And from what everybody tells me, you run the neighborhood. I don't know if that's true or not. And I also understand that if you say it, there'll never be a fight in that building. And if you say it, the building will never get tagged or graffitied. And if you say it, there'll never be a weapon in the building. So I'm coming here to ask you to say it. And what do I have to do to get you to tell everybody in the neighborhood to never have those things happen at the corner of Breston and Yoring at the what we call the Project Solution Community Complex? And here's a quote. As long as my guys can take the adult education classes for free, you'll never have a problem. True story. That's a true story. Call Sergeant Keith Primus in the gang unit in Reno, Nevada. He'll tell you. And I was like, really? Seriously? Are you kidding me? Really? I can make that happen. And it's now been 12 years. But at least during that time, never tagged, never graffitied once. Not once, never a fight in the building. There was a fight that happened outside the building, but never in the building. No weapon, no gun ever in the building. Because the guy in charge, the person of influence, I understood his values. And what was the strongest value amongst that gang? Respect. And the guy from outside of the neighborhood, the philanthropist, the humanitarian, came and, okay, Sal Sleepy Rico, you're in charge. What do I got to do? Now, you might say to yourself, well, why did you give him the credence? Because he was in charge. So sometimes, if I understand people's communication style, I might be able to get what I need. Final. Belief. The belief-based communicator. The belief-based communicator. How do I know the belief-based communicator? It's when you sit and talk with them, you have a long conversation, they go like this, that's interesting. But let me tell you what I believe. What I believe. You can show them every fact in the world and they come back at you and go, that's fine and dandy, but let me tell you what I believe. Have you ever had that conversation? Now listen, this is really important. So from now on, when you're going to have a conversation with another human being, I want you to say to yourself, what kind of communicator am I? What kind of communicator are they? And then commit yourself to changing slightly. So if I perceive that I'm going to talk to a fact-based communicator, I might have to talk in facts. Go ahead.
Do we not use all of these in different settings and within the same conversation with someone?
Sometimes. Yeah. But we all have a propensity. We all will.
Have the preference of
right.
one or the other, but we have the ability to use all
That's
of
right.
these.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. But like, here's an example. If I'm standing in front of a community group, and I'm trying to make the case, I'm going to pepper it. Think of a Dodge Ram truck commercial. Now, watch this now. This is really important. Really, really important. You will see all 4 filters in process in a 1-minute Dodge Ram truck commercial? Where's the fact-based communication happening? Think about it now. Where's that happening? It's happening right over here. It's right over here. MSRP, the numbers, it's all right here, isn't it? It's all right there. Okay, where's the emotion happening? Where's the emotion happening? It's the half-clad girls moving around on the hood of the truck, right? I mean, she has nothing to do with the Dodge truck, but she's half naked rolling around. That's right. Okay, watch this. Where's this? The values, that's this. Listen now, listen. The values is this. If you're any kind of a Canadian, if you're half a man, then you drive a Dodge Ram. We laugh. They spend billions of dollars to ensure that all 4 communication styles are in play in a 1 minute. Now stop. The next time you apply for a grant, the next time you stand up in a public meeting, the next time you're going to make sure that you're trying to get a community involved in something, your paperwork, your words, you better say to yourself, do I have some facts in here? What about the emotion side? How am I going to get the belief base? What are the values of the audience that I'm talking to? And how am I going to be able to position my messaging to meet that? How many say this makes sense? Yeah. It totally makes sense. And really, you know what we're doing right now? This isn't marketing 101. This is marketing 401 and 601. So from now on, if I want to be an agent of change, I'm going to try to size up the communication style of the stakeholder group that I'm attempting to engage. You are absolutely right. It's not like a box. It's more nuanced, but let's at least start thinking in those terms, especially if you're somebody in the room that supervises other human beings. Before you sit down and talk to that person, think.
No two humans are exactly
That's right.
alike.
Just think to yourself, in my experience, what do they gravitate to? Do they gravitate more towards numbers or emotion? Do they gravitate towards their background and the history of their life, their values, or something else? And I'm going to sit down and talk to them, so how am I going to position my messaging? Incredibly important. And you'll see in a moment when we roll out this strategy of building your sphere of influence why it's even more important. Okay, I'm going to give you a little exercise. Over the next 7 days, here's what I want you to do. I want you to work the #1 skill the agent of change has. And you might think it's the ability to speak. That, oh, to be an agent of change, I got to go give a pep talk, and I got to be able to really talk. I got to talk like Ian. No. The #1 skill you need today to be an agent of change is the ability to listen. If you can convince somebody that you've really listened to them, how many agree with me there's nothing more powerful or validating than that when you feel like you've been listened to and heard. That's what I mean. When you walk out of the conversation with me and if you were to say, he really listened to me, he understands me, would that be more powerful in influencing you or a good pep talk? It would be the listening, wouldn't it? So you don't have to be a good talker today. We actually shy away from good talkers because we wonder what's up their sleeve. What are they trying to do to me? Instead, be the great listener. So here's the task for the next 7 days. The task for the next 7 days is, I want you to start listening to people like they're going to die at midnight. What? See, here's what I mean. This is how most of us listen nowadays. Let me show you. This is how most of us listen nowadays. What was your name again? Lori. So here's how most of us listen. Hey, Lori, what's up? How you doing? Good to see you. And Lori starts talking to me, and that's all fine and dandy, and that's great, Lori. How you doing? What was that, Lori? Oh, okay, yeah. All right. You what? How many agree with me? That's how a lot of people listen today. So here's what we're going to do. From now on, you're going to learn to listen so well that you won't need a business card anymore. Because I'm going to listen to Lori so well that she'll walk away and say, you know what? I really think he cares about me. You know what? He actually paid attention and let me tell my story. Remember, we're in a user-driven society. People want to talk about themselves, so let them. And in that validating of who they are as human beings, you'll begin to build trust with them just by listening. You don't need to be a great talker. Just be a great listener. Just really pay attention. So here's the theory on like they're going to die at midnight. If I knew that Lori, God forbid, was leaving the planet, right? I'm always afraid that sometime I'm going to do this and someone really is going to leave the planet. So Lori, I know Lori's days are coming to the end, and tonight at midnight, would I listen to every single? Of course. I would give her my full heart, my full soul, all that I am. So for the next 7 days, your challenge is whoever's talking to you, give them all you have. And you know where I want you to start? At your house. I know all of you are like, damn.
Like with our kids and spouses, you mean?
Yeah. So here's where you're going to start. I know. Our kids and spouse.
Right, not yet, honey. I'm talking.
Not your terrier. Listen. Yeah, that's right. Your daughter. That's right. Listen. This is really important. Why is it so hard for us to listen? Because she's my mother. Okay, let's take our family unit out of this.
We're thinking about the next task. We're all over the place.
Okay, listen. I can speak at about 100, I can think at about 180 words a minute. I can speak at about 90. So, my mind drifts. Then you add the technology, then you add the pressures, then you add everything else, I'm not listening anymore. And how many of you have sat with another human being and you know for a fact they're not listening to a word you're saying? But they're doing this. Oh yeah, yeah. Now I'm going to tell you a really unfortunate story. So the other day, a few weeks ago, Nadia, my little, she's 9 now, she just turned 9, 8 at the time. Nadia came in to my office at the house and started telling me a story of what happened at school. And it used to be, and let's be honest, you've done this, used to be I could do this. Yeah, wow, Not listening to a word, but appropriately placing the wow, and I could continue to answer email. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And here's what little Nadia did. Blah, 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 blah. She walked out. I was typing, and I went, where the hell did Nadia go? Nadia is old enough now, she knows Dad's lying. And in those indefinable split seconds, I realized why Nadia will turn to the drug dealer, why Nadia will turn to a man who will take advantage of her, because her dad didn't give her the love and the care and the attention, so she'll find it from some other man. And in those indefinable split seconds, I realized I better get my ass in gear. Otherwise, I'm going to lose little Nadia. How many of you know that what I just said is true? I jumped up and I ran down the hallway and I tried to chase after her, and she just looked at me and she's like, you didn't care about my story. And you pretended, you faked, Dad. And you tell us we shouldn't fake and we shouldn't lie. How many know? And how many know it was this? Let's go to ice cream. How about ice cream? Toy? Can I get you a toy? What can I do for you? Which is a whole nother, psychology session that we need to have. But my point is this, guys. Listen to people. Give them the value. Validate them as a human being. You won't need a business card. You won't need a business card because people will be like, wow, I felt like I was the only person in the room. Have you ever talked to somebody that made you feel like they were the only person, you were the only person in the room? Be that person. So where are we going to start? We're going to start at our house because that'll be the hardest, because we sit at the supper table eating and we're like, are you kidding me? Please. Can I just watch the television? I really don't want to talk to you. Please. So whether it's your house, and then that next concentric circle is your workplace, and then the people you meet in the community. Here's your goal, that I will give them my whole heart, I will give them my whole soul, and I will give them my undivided attention for the time they are in front of me. I will not think about my next meeting. I will not feel my phone vibrate. I will focus exclusively on them. And how many of you know this is going to be hard? But if you can perfect this skill, you will immediately begin to expand your sphere of influence. You'll immediately, and how much does this cost? Nothing. Nothing at all. So listen like they're going to die at midnight. So that's an intangible, open communication exercise. Now let me give you a tangible one that you may or may not want to participate in.
Is it okay if you like cut them off early if you are really busy and you know that person won't talk for an hour?
Yeah, you might say, I'm limited. No. So here's some words. Here's some words to put in your toolkit. You know what, Megan? I totally want to listen to what you have to say. And right now, I can't give you my undivided attention. Can we talk at another time where I can give you my full heart and my full soul and my undivided attention? Because I want to give you that. I don't want to be distracted. I want to give you everything I got. I think it's okay to say that.
So it's like giving them an explanation.
Yeah. I want to, because right now I'm not going to be able to listen to you. My boss is on my ass. I got to think about a million things, or my husband, or my.
Guilty when I have to cut it short and I say I need to get this done. Can we finish this later? That's what I usually try.
Managing expectations. That's all you're doing. You're managing that expectation. Okay, now this is a tangible exercise that you may or may not choose to do, but I would strongly encourage you to do it. So we're talking open communication to build trust. I want you to send out a survey. I want you to send out a survey to your direct reports if you supervise, or to your peers if you do not. A survey that should have 3 questions. An anonymous survey. And the 3 questions are right here in your handout. The survey is this. Question number 1, what am I doing right? Question number 2, what am I doing wrong? Your suggestions for my improvement. Question number 3, if you could send me back to school, what class would you make me take? Now here's how you do that. You go to Microsoft Word or whatever, you type up the 3 questions and you hand them out. And you say, I need your feedback on how I'm doing. Go ahead and just slide it under my door, put it in my box, whatever. Don't email it back to me, because I would like this to be anonymous. That's what you say to them. And then just have them fill it out and give it back to you in an anonymous way. Why am I asking you to send out this survey? Why am I asking you to send out this survey?
So, you know, a self-check for people to tell you where your
Strengths, weaknesses, whatever. Why else am I telling you this?
Compare what you think of yourself and what they think of you.
Compare the 2. Good. Why else am I telling you to do this? In the context of building trust.
for the fact that
You value
you
their opinion.
value their opinion enough to ask them.
Good. Now take it one step further. Honesty, good. One step
Take
further.
what they tell you
And,
do something
ah.
and change.
If somebody came to you and said, I'd like your opinion on how I'm doing, and then they saw you take the opinion and actually do something with it, would you trust them more or less? Would you respect them more or less? So, proactively providing an opportunity to build trust with a human being. Because in today's day and age, for somebody to 1, ask your opinion, 2, take it and actually come up with a plan to do something with it, and then actually change, how many of you know you're like, wow, that was amazing? Remember from our first time, I'm going to ask you to pick out one thing sometime in the near future. Well, wouldn't it be useful to ask everybody what the one thing should be? For multiple reasons. 1, because it gives you insight and wisdom of what you might not be able to see in yourself. And 2, it's a tremendous opportunity to expand your sphere of influence. Because I will be influenced by someone I respect. When someone asks me their opinion and then takes my opinion and does something with it, I respect them more, yes or no? I just expanded my sphere of influence. How much does that cost? All right, now stop for a second. Stop the bus. Don't whine and complain to me that you can't develop a sphere of influence. Don't whine and complain to me that you can't get things. When I'm saying you, I mean the collective, big community you, not you personally. So when people come to me and whine and complain that they can't influence anything, it's because they don't have strategies to build influence. Strategies to build influence. Remember what I said to you the first time. It's not enough to be a good-hearted, well-meaning person. Good-hearted, well-meaning people screw up the world every day.
But you have the courage to change.
That's right. And they have strategies, and they deploy those strategies. So one strategy is, I'm going to send out a regular survey on me. Now, when I used to run that big place, that was every 90 days. Every 90 days, the 48 direct reports got to evaluate me. Once a year, every one of the 1,100 got to. And you know what? I didn't always like what I read. I didn't always like what I read. It was painful sometimes. But they say feedback is the breakfast of champions. And it is true, the first few times there was a lot of cynical comments. But once people started to see what I was trying to do, people began to trust it and respected it. And I was getting quality feedback. Now, for you, you want to listen? Then proactively listen. Listening is not passive. For some of you that are leaders in the room and you've said, I have an open door policy, that's stupid. I'm dead serious. Let me tell you why. An open door policy is stupid because it's totally reactive. Because by the time somebody walks in the open door, how many of you know that problem's become a mushroom cloud? I want to know the problem when it's this tiny, this big, so I can fix it. Well, that would mean I need to be proactive in listening. Not tonight and not in the near future, but when we talk about being a catalyst for responsibility, we'll give you some more strategy of how to actively listen, go get those problems before they become big mushroom clouds. But for now, 2 exercises. Intangible, listen like they're going to die at midnight. Tangible, send out the survey, which will help you develop your one thing. Quickly, I build trust when I have outcomes. Do you want to follow somebody that has no idea where they're going? Then you need to have some outcomes. Outcome-based thinking. Now, outcome-based, impact-focused. What does outcome-based mean? It means before I begin the journey, I put out what it's going to be. Life's 5 most urgent questions. How many of you remember that from last time?
Read it or no?
No, just, yeah. So the 5 most urgent questions. What will be my greatest contribution to my family? Well, remember those? Not tonight and not last week or last time. But in the near future, I'm going to ask you to tell me those, your 5 most urgent answers to those questions. Why? To start to develop outcomes for your life. Outcome-based impact focus. What does it really mean? It was way, way, way long. It was at the end of the last packet. Yeah, but you weren't supposed to answer them yet.
No, I didn't.
That was perfect. You're good. My point is that they are an exercise to help you develop an outcome for your life. If I want to build trust with other people, people trust people that are going somewhere. People trust people that have a direction. How many of you are okay with a leader who you don't necessarily agree with their direction, but at least they have one? As opposed to somebody that has no direction whatsoever. Which would you prefer? You would prefer, at least I know that they're headed somewhere. Okay, listen. When we talk about outcome-based planning, not tonight, but when we talk about, in the last competency, when we talk about the engagement approach to planning, we'll unpack this to a greater degree. But I've got to have a direction. I've got to be outcome first. What do I want it to be? Where are we at today, right? We'll have that conversation. High emotional IQ. So here's the drill. The drill is that if I can't control my emotions today, people are less forgiving than they've ever been. It used to be that I could lose my cool, come back the next day, apologize to everybody. Everybody be like, no problems, that's okay, we love you, I love you too. How many know today it's like this? Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, hey, no problems, yeah. And then what do they say? Oh yeah, you just wait. When I get a chance to throw you under the bus, I'll throw you under the bus. Would you agree that that has changed? This is the simplicity of a high emotional IQ. A high emotional IQ is the ability to disengage the clutch when the emotions, here's another way to say it. The ability to say to oneself, I'm getting heated, and what is the best thing for me to say or do right now that would further my agenda? What is the best thing for me to say or do? Not what do I feel like saying or doing. Just what is the best thing? That ability to disengage for a moment and ask yourself that. That's a high emotional IQ. And then finally, You build trust when you like what you're doing, when you're relatable. Anybody know who Jennifer Aniston is? Who's Jennifer Aniston? She's an actress. Is she the greatest actress of all time?
No,
Is she Academy Award winning actress? No.
I don't know.
Why does she always have big box office? Because she's likable. Because she was married to, that's right. Because she has a likability about her. So in today's day and age, if you want to build trust or expand your sphere of influence, then unfortunately, you're going to have to be likable. Likability and relatability. See, there was a time, even in Fort Chip, this is changing. There was a time where I only hung around people that looked like me, went where I went, ate what I ate, talked like I talked. But how many of you know, even in a small community like Fort Chip, that's changing? There's diversity, different people. So now all of a sudden, I've got to be able to relate to different people with different backgrounds, talents, and experience and interest. If I'm an effective listener, I have a better likelihood of being relatable. Because I say, so tell me about you. And you start to tell me. And as I'm listening and learning about you, I think to myself, oh, I have a 9-year-old too. We have absolutely nothing in common, but we both have 9-year-olds. Which means we have what? Something in common. So I'm looking how I can be relatable. But I can't do that if all I'm doing is what? If all I'm doing is talking, we're not going to find relatability. I got to listen to be relatable today. And the more I listen, the more likable I'll be. Nobody likes a sorry bastard that does nothing but talk. But this context doesn't, okay. This doesn't count. Right? I've only got an hour and 45 minutes. I got to talk. So, relatability and likability. And then finally, loving what you do. None of us are going to trust somebody that hates what they do. None of us is going to give our time, talent, and allegiance to somebody that hates what they do. If you hate what you do, then go do something else. It's not any good for you. It's not any good for the people around you. Now, Ian, financially, I'm stuck. I can't. Okay, well, then something's going to have to change. Then you're going to have to get refreshed. You're going to have to get re-energized. But you can't keep hating what you do and wondering why nobody will follow you. Because they don't want to be around that. They don't want to be around this person. Yeah, they just don't want to be around it. Okay. Now, we got 2 things to do. And how many of you saw the email that went out and said 8:15? How many of you saw that? Yeah, you were smart. You caught that because we're going to 8:15. Because we got 2 things to do.
I thought it was a typo.
Okay, pull out this sheet because we're going to do a survey. It won't take long. We might not be here till 8:15. Take this sheet out because we're going to do a survey. So I've given you communication. I've given you communication style. Now we're going to sit down and figure out your leadership style. If you work in an office or a group, or you work in a voluntary sector organization or a community-based organization, or you're a part of any of those kind of groups, I strongly encourage you to take this back and do it with your group. I will post a video of this on the learning portal. So you don't have to remember how to do it, but you'll do it, and then you could share it with others. Here's the point. If I better understand her, and she better understands me, we have a fighting chance to get in alignment with each other. If I understand her communication style, and she understands mine, and I understand her work style or leadership style, and she understands mine, we have a fighting chance to get in alignment with each other. Because I'll say this, oh, now I know why you do that. Okay. And she'll say, oh, now I know why you're an ass, Ian. Okay. It's all good. Okay, some of these words I would just want to read very quickly, and then we'll do the exercise, and it won't take long. If leadership is the art of giving direction and focus to the energy and talent of others in order to accomplish specific results, then each and every one of us is a leader, and leadership needs to happen at all levels. Being able to build a dynamic team, as defined by a group of individuals capable of pulling smoothly in the same direction, is especially important for community leaders. As such, it requires understanding that people are different and differences are essential. But what's the problem with having a bunch of different people? It's really annoying. That's the problem. The problem is all of those differences can cause conflict. All of those differences can cause miscommunications, even animosity and anger and fights. How many of you know what I'm talking about? So we have to have a way to understand differences and take differences and maximize them. So the exercise is not an exact science, but it's an attempt to better understand you and you better understand me. That's why I want you to not only take this for yourself, but share it with others and have others take it so that they go, oh, I get it now. And you go, oh, I understand now. And we gain greater alignment. Have any of you ever had your back out of alignment? Well, organizations are the same. We lack alignment. Or communities are the same. We lack alignment. We have this group over here. We have that group over there. We have this group over there. And then we wonder why prosperity never happens in our community. You know why? Because just like your body, when it's out of alignment, it doesn't function properly. Communities don't function properly when they're out of alignment as well. We have this group, this group, this group. They never get in alignment, and then they wonder why things suck. Because there's a lack of alignment. All right, let's do the exercise. This is how it works. Each column, there's words. You're going to quickly, not long, you're going to quickly read the word to yourself. If it's you, check mark. If it's not you, move on. When you get to the bottom, count up the total and write it in. Don't wait till the end to write in the totals. It'll take you forever. So, adaptable, adventurous, carefree, charismatic, charming. Yes, yes, no, no, yes, yes. Just check, 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 check. Write them at the bottom. Ready, set, go. If you're what the word says, check mark. If you're not, move on. When you get to the bottom, put the total. And do both pages. Do both pages. Both pages. And if you're watching us right now, thank you, Tim. If you're watching us right now in the archive, then if you want, you can just stop and you do the exercise. No, seriously, hit pause right now. Stop. Dude, hit stop. No, not you. I was being funny to our viewers. Tim. I love Tim. I know, he's like a lemming. He's like, yes, whatever. Yeah. That's right. Okay. So just go through the words. Go through the words. Go through the words. Column 2, assertive, consistent, decisive, dependable, hardworking, knowledgeable. Just go through the words. Remember, when you get to the bottom, put the total in now so you don't have to come back to it. Third column, alert, analytical, astute, attentive, calm, conceptual, logical, non-judgmental, observant. Fourth column, altruistic, balanced, caring. That means you're willing to give of yourself and for nothing in return. You're willing to do things for the right reasons and the causes, and you're altruistic. Yep. Don't look at other people's sheet. What are you doing? You're not doing the exercise?
I did it.
Oh, before, that's right. You did do it. You're right. Yeah.
I know what I am.
Yeah, you know who you are. You know what you're doing. Column 5, 6, and 7. Do all of them, please. Go through quickly. We don't have a lot of time. It's not meant for a lot of thought. It's a gut reaction. It's a gut reaction. Either you are or you're not. 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 Just keep rolling.
When my check mark sort of slows down.
If you're not that, move on. Make sure you do all 8 columns now. So there's 8 columns. I know, a lot of work. Now some of you might only have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 check marks in a whole column. That's not a problem. Don't worry about it. Only one person in the history of this test actually checked every box on every page. And when Gandhi did that, he... When Mother Teresa took the test, you know. Gandhi. Okay, keep going. When you have all 8 columns done, just set your pencil down, and I know you're ready to roll to the next part. Get all 8 columns. If you have all 8, anybody close to all 8 columns? Who's got all 8 columns done? Okay, perfect, perfect. So now, start to transfer the columns to here. So column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. But watch, then it goes this way, column 5, column 6, column 7, column 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, a little trickery there going on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if you're watching, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So take your totals and put them over, and then total them up. Total of column 1 and 8, 2 and 7, 3 and 6, 4 and 5. Okay, good, very good.
Totally surprised though.
Okay, wait right there. Did you already do it?
Yeah, I'm done.
Oh, you're done, done, done?
Done.
Oh, you're awesome. But then write the second one too. Write the second one. In other words, your first and second.
Oh, okay.
And your third and fourth, okay?
So first and second go in the top one?
Yeah, write them in though. Write what they are. So the perfect. Yeah, perfect. And then the down below. And then help your classmates. Help your classmates, please. Just kind of, if you can, perfect. Okay, now take your tide. Okay, so put 1 here. No, put the actual name there. Yep, organizer. And then researcher, nurturer here, and then put your third, your energizer down there. Okay, very good. Okay, okay, you're still going. You're still going. Very good. 1, is that your highest? Good. And then 2, and then 3, and 4.
I think this is wrong.
Well, we'll see. So take 1 and 2 and write the words here, and then 3 and 4 and write the words. So organizer, nurturer goes here, and then energizer, researcher goes there. Okay?
Because
Just do as you're told, young lady, and then we'll see if it's right or
But I'm
not.
not getting it right. Okay. So dominant style is
1 and 2.
1 and 2.
So
Got it.
organizer, nurturer, and
Okay.
then, yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Got
Perfect. Good. Everybody good? Everybody good? Okay. So now rank them.
Your number 1 is your highest score.
4.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4.
And then write the first one on your document.
Dominant is nurture.
And 2. So 1 and 2 go up here, and 3 and 4 go there. Yep.
First, 1 is the first one, second one.
Well, we'll see. Let's see. We'll read the definition, okay? Okay, so take your total of A. It's 25, 22, 21, 28. Okay, your highest rank is nurturer, so put a 1. So a 2, 3, 4. So now nurturer and energizer are your dominant, and researcher, organizer are your recessive. So go ahead and write those in. Yes? 1 is your highest, 4 is your lowest, right? And then you, yeah, that's right.
So whatever your number of 1 is, whatever your 1 is research, that's what you are right here.
Okay, so you're totaling these out. So 18, 18, 17, 15. And then take this A and put it there, 18, 18 in B, 17, 15. So your highest rank is Energizer and Organizer are both number 1. So put a 1 and a 1. And then a 3 and a 4. So you'd write these 2 there and those 2 here. Yep. Okay, here we go. Organizer and Energizer are there, and then Researcher and Nurturer are there. Okay, here we go. Let's talk about what this could mean quickly. Now, how many of you know this is not a mathematical equation? So there is no absolute. This is just an attempt to better understand you, and for you to better understand you. Now, imagine doing this with a group that you know, or work with on a regular basis, or volunteer with, or whatever. The idea here is that you all better understand each other. How many of you, your dominant style or one of your dominant styles was Energizer? Raise your hand. Okay, let's see what it says about Energizer. Energizers are charismatic, buoyant, energetic, enjoy living life. They are open to new ideas. Energizers work best with clear short-term goals, tangible outcomes, and immediate rewards. They are people who approach tasks with great enthusiasm. They will demand the freedom to work on their own or volunteer to lead. They make excellent salespeople, teachers, actors, public speakers. They're enthusiastic, youthful, and honest. They can be unreliable, flighty, immature, attention-seeking, manipulative, intolerant of authority or rules. How many of you that rose your hands, now you're like, I don't know if I want to raise my hand. How many of you say this is fairly accurate to you, yes or no? Okay, now let's go to Organizer. How many of you raise your hand if you are organizers? Okay, now listen. Listen, 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 because sometimes when we hear the word organizer, we think it means highly organized. So listen, let's listen to it. Organizers are typically dynamos. They're action-oriented, strong-willed, always seems to get a lot accomplished in a short period of time. Despite a well-organized mind, they are not given to analysis. They are inclined to quick appraisals. They are attentive to detail, enjoy routines and systems, appreciate tangible rewards and recognition. Excellent generals, executives, and also famous criminals. So, listen now. Authoritative, self-confident, dislike conformity, unyielding, see black and white. How many of you, Organizer was your dominant style and Energizer was recessive? Anybody like that? How many of you, Energizer was your dominant? Okay? I can guarantee you, if the two of you were on the same team, you might have a little bit of a challenge. Because you are not about the rule. You are about some structure. You're going to be talking about the structure while she's talking about the vision. Let's do this thing. And you're like, well, hold on. So let's get some process and some vision and some, that's great, all the vision, but we need some structure. Now listen, is that true? Okay, now here's the problem. The problem is those two people in a meeting, I'm watching the dynamic and the train wreck happen, and then we all get annoyed. Have you ever sat in that meeting? Now, is either one of those perspectives right or wrong? Do we need both? So the exercise here is about me saying, oh, now I understand. You like structure, you function better. We do need that. We also need the Energizer with the vision and no authority to rule because they got to step outside the box. We need both. Okay, keep going. Next one. How many of you were researchers? Raise your hand. Dominant style. Okay. Researchers are conceptual, independent. They seek knowledge and understanding and like to solve problems or deal with, and which is innovative by exploring ideas and developing models. In relationships, their heads rule over their hearts. Because repetition is painful, it seems unnecessary to continuously restate and express how one feels. As friends, they're loyal. They're analytical. They produce quality work. They can be aloof, intolerant, of incompetency. A researcher stacked up with an Energizer, we're going to have some issues. They dislike unfairness, they condemn injustice. Again, there are no right or wrongs. Researchers are task-oriented introverts sometimes. The nurturer, how many of you are nurturers? For nurturers, life is generally a happy, calm experience. Nurturers appreciate frequent notice of their contribution and performance. If I have a nurturer working for me, I gotta make sure I take time to acknowledge their performance. Although as an energizer, I might not need that. But I understand, as an agent of change, I have to bend my style to others. Nurturers generally ask why questions and they really want to know the answers. How many of you know somebody that asks a lot of questions and it annoys the hell out of you?
Most 3-year-olds.
But I know,
Nurturers, sort of that.
that's right. So my point is, hold on now, this is important. My point is that nurturers really care. That's why they're asking the questions. And they may come off even being malcontents or resistors, and they're not. They want answers because they care. So before we discount them and dismiss them, we have to understand leadership today is about understanding everyone's style and accommodating accordingly. That doesn't mean totally leaning towards the nurturer or totally leaning towards the organizer, but making some accommodation for other people's styles and then trying to marshal that human capital. Honest, sincerity, trustworthy, helpful, modest and loyal, impractical, gullible, patronizing, self-deprecating, fanatical. There's goods and bads to all these styles. Now here's what I need you to do. I need you to take time and go home and read these. Not because there's a right or wrong, but because look introspectively in yourself and say this, is this approach that I'm using serving me well? And do I need to bend it because of the people that I work with? Do I need to bend it to fit better? Today's influence comes from trust. If I'm willing to bend to gain your trust, I'll be able to exert influence. How many would say, for the most part, the exercise was right on? Raise your hand if you think that to be true. Isn't that amazing? 10 minutes. We did a 10-minute exercise. Here's what I'll do. I'll post this exercise. It's about a 23-minute video. The exercise of this, the video of this exercise on the learning portal at the beginning of the week, maybe before the end of the week, but at least by the beginning of the week. Take it and use it with who you work with, or use it with the group you volunteer for, or use it with your community-based organization, even if you don't remember how to do it, because the video will be there. Fair enough? Yeah. Okay. All right, we have 11 minutes, so don't put your stuff away yet. It wasn't a typo. Not tonight. Tonight, all I'm going to do is give you an overview. I believe I don't think it's next week. I think it's the following week. You will receive 4 videos in 1 week. 4 videos in 1 week. They're only about 5 or 6 minutes each. 4 emails, right? I'm going to try to teach you how to expand your sphere of influence in a very specific and tangible and linear way. So imagine, if you will, that this is you. Here you are. And you want to get something done in a community. You want to make something happen. But you don't have a title, you don't have money, and you don't have power. How do you affect change when you don't have any of that? That's what I'm going to try to walk out for you. Or how do I know it works? Because trust me, there's been plenty of times we had no influence, no power, no money, we couldn't get anything done, but we still wanted to change the world. So how do you do that? That's what we'll share with you. I want to give you, and how do you expand your sphere of influence? How do you expand your sphere of influence? How do you take this and make it that to get something done? I think it has to be strategic, I think it has to be intentional, and I think it has to be within the context of what the times require. What I'm going to do in our last 9 minutes is give you an overview. But then, in that week, each day, you'll get a quick video that'll unpack it to a greater degree. It'll walk you through it step by step. Fair enough? All right, let's just do a big picture. In today's day and age, penetrating the volume of images, information, and white noise that people are inundated with on a daily basis, we must have a message and a conduit to deliver that message that is relevant, impactful, and simple. What does that mean? That means people are really, really busy, even in a small community. How do I catch somebody's attention to the thing I want to do? How do I get somebody of influence to pay attention to me? How do I get somebody of power to listen to my words or our words? How do I do that today? It's not just a Facebook page. It's not just a website. It's not just a meeting. It's a lot of stuff. But when it comes down to it, I would suggest to you that it's about relationship. If the right 7 people in this town agreed with what you wanted to do, how many would agree with me? You'd get it done. And maybe it's 7 people, 11 people, 5 people, I don't know. It depends on the size of the community. Even Toronto, if the right 15 people in Toronto got on board with what I wanted to do, how many of you know it'd get done? How about in the country? If the right 27 people got on board, if the right ones, the right 27 people got on board, how many of you know I'd get done what I want to get done? Absolutely. Guaranteed. So is it about resources or is it about influence? I would suggest to you it's about influence. Well, you got to have money. There's no leader in a free world country that wouldn't take Mother Teresa's call. There's no leader in the free world of a free world country that when she was alive, that was like this, oh, I'm not taking that call. You know, if Mother Teresa called, they were like, hello, how may I help you? She had significant influence. So how do I do that? So the exercise is pretty simple. It takes into consideration 2 truisms, that it's about influence and it's about trust. And that if I want somebody to give me their time, talent, and treasure, I need to build a relationship with them. But I'm not going to be able to do it the way we used to, which is sell, 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 sell. I'm not going to be able to talk. I'm going to have to do it another way. So what I'm going to ask you to do in that week is I'm going to ask you to write down 3 people of influence that you know. 3 people of influence. And you're going to build a deeper and more trusting relationship with them over a period of time. I call the strategy 100 cups of coffee. It's a 100 cup of coffee strategy. Because if it takes 100 cups of coffee, I'm going to build a deeper relationship with you. Now, what's the difference between a person of influence and a person of prominence? What's the difference between a person of influence and prominence? What?
Prominence is their position, I guess.
How many of you know some people that everybody knows but they have no influence? That even people think they're a fool. But then there's other people that nobody knows that really have all the influence. When you came into a community, what would be more important? The people of prominence or the people of influence? Sal Sleepy Rico was a person of influence, but nobody knew who he was. But when I asked around town, who makes things go around here? Sal Sleepy Rico. Is it important for me to know the executive, the CEO of the company, or his secretary? She's the person of influence. She'll make sure I get a meeting, or not. It's just like in a company or an organization. Don't piss off the executive assistant, because your stuff will never get into the person in charge. Am I right or wrong? That's the influence. So, if I wanted to do something, if I wanted to get something done, the first thing I would do would be identify the people of influence. Whenever we do a project in the community, here's what I ask. Who are the 5 moms with the loudest mouths in town? Because guess what? Those are the people I want to go meet. Those are the people I want to have a coffee with. Those are the people I want to get to know. For those of you in the room that are municipal employees, start thinking like this. Stop worrying about who the person of prominence is and start worrying about who the people of influence are, because that's true community development. Who are the people in town that really make it go, and how do they see me, and how do they see us? And if they see me or us in a negative light, I better go build some trust with them. Look at all that aha. Maggie, we just had an aha moment, right? Ah, okay. Listen, because we only have a few more seconds. Shh. If I tell you 8:15, it's got to be 8:15 so that you don't, it's a typo. So just hang with me for a second. The technique that we'll use, that I'll explain, in this 100 cup of coffee strategy is very counterintuitive. It's what I call the chat. So when we execute this strategy that we'll talk about, we'll do it using what is called the chat. The chat is this. It's a discovery technique where I learn more about you, your dreams, your hopes, your desires. So when I go to meet with the person of influence, I'm not there to tell them and get them on board with what I want to do. How many of you agree that's our natural tendency? Hi, person of influence, I hope that you'll help me get done, and I need you, and what will you give, and what will you do? No. Instead, the chat is this. I do 80% of the listening, 20% of the talking. I ask open-ended questions to better understand their hopes, their dreams, their desires, and what they want to accomplish. And I do it to their satisfaction. I might never talk to them about what I want to do till I know I have their trust. I have their trust. Then and only then might I say, let me tell you about what I'm doing. That same project, I needed the mayor's help of that community. I needed the mayor's influence. So I went and met with him. His name is Jeff Griffin. I went and met with Jeff, and I said this. I said, Jeff, you're in the end of you're coming up on your last term. What are your dreams for your last term? What do you hope to accomplish, and how can I help make it happen? You know what he talked about? Youth. That's all he talked about. Youth, 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 youth. Youth, I want my legacy to be youth. And I said, that's kind of funny, because we want to open a youth center on the corner of Bresson and Yoring. How would you like to make it yours? How would you like to lead the parade? How would you like this to be your legacy? I'd love that, Ian. I said, okay, why not? I don't care who gets the credit. Why not yours? Somehow we got $150,000 out of a budget that there was no money. Somehow we had the total support of the elected officials and everybody involved. Somehow, all of a sudden, everything changed because a person of influence. But the key was that I didn't come there to pitch him. I came there to understand how I could help him. There's something that people all across Canada and across North America are yelling every day. You know what it is? Don't sell me anything! But as community-based organizers, or as RMWB employees, we go meet with community members and we try to sell them on our thing. Stop doing that. Instead, listen to their needs, their wants, their desires, their hopes and aspirations, and then figure out how you can make them come true. Would you agree with me that approach would be more appealing to you? If somebody came to help you make your thing a reality, would that be more appealing to you, yes or no? Would you then eventually be more willing to listen to their thing? Right. Now, we won't unpack it all the way tonight because we don't have time. But the simplicity is, how do I build a trusting relationship to expand my sphere of influence? Well, first, I'm proactive. I identify the people of influence and the stakeholder groups that they reside in. I try to see if I have any personal connection to them. If I don't, I find someone who does. Because I can then better understand their communication style. Once I understand their communication style, then and only then when I go and sit and talk with them. But when I sit and talk with them, I'm not going to do what they expect. Let me tell you about my thing. Instead, I'm going to ask open-ended questions where I learn about their thing, their hopes, their dreams, their wants, and their desires. And I'll try to bring into alignment what they want to do with the thing I want to do. Because it's more likely to happen if they perceive that their agenda will be advanced. And do I really care? As long as it's within my principles and values, I don't really care. And then my thing tags along with their thing. Does this make sense? The challenge is we're going to have to take a week to talk about it because it's a skill. But we'll talk about it in little blips over a 4-day period, okay? All right. Somebody tell me something you're taking away from tonight. Okay, a new tool. Somebody else, something you're taking away from tonight. Come on, something you're taking away from this evening. Look at your notes, whatever you have to do, but somebody tell me something you're taking away from tonight. Communication. So she's walking away with, I have a deeper understanding of different communication approaches, and then hopefully you're reflecting on what's mine first. How do I like and prefer to communicate? Somebody else, tell me something you're taking away. Listening. So your exercises over the next 7 days, I'm going to listen like people are going to die at midnight. Commit yourself to that starting tonight. When you get home, oh, Ian, I'm too tired to do that. Listen. And then, if you're really up for the challenge, you're going to send out that survey. Okay? Somebody else, tell me something you're taking away from tonight. Shh. Listen, go ahead. you have a better understanding of the type of leadership approach you prefer. Now, is that set in stone? No. Your history is not your destiny. You can adjust that. But for now, at least you know where you are now. Somebody else, something you're taking away from tonight. Why am I drilling this so hard? Why am I drilling this so hard? Come on. Why am I continuing to ask this? Every time we interact, or whether it's email, whether it's face-to-face, whether it's the coaching session, you're intentionally looking to take something away to ensure that learning has occurred. I'm taking 3 days away from my little kids. You're taking time tonight away from your family or your personal life. Let's make sure that it's utilized to its maximum. So to do that, we have to be very disciplined, and we have to challenge ourselves. What did I really learn? We talked about a myriad of things, but at least I'm taking away one thing. And then that one thing, I learned this. She learned about communication style. She learned about listening. She learned about, all of us should be able to say, at least I learned this. The discipline of that is hopefully translates over 15 weeks into every day now. I'm intentional. I'm intentional. I'm intentional. So that in the 16-week and 18-week and the 26th week and the 52nd week, after we're done, you're a changed person. You're a better leader. There is a 4-year-old boy right now in this community that needs somebody in this room to be a better leader. I met them. And I think about them all the time. I think about those kids that I met in that school, Ross, that told me they didn't have dreams, and they didn't have goals, and they didn't have aspirations. That weighs on me. But I don't live here. I can't do anything about that. All I can do is try to do the best I can to equip you. And then you'll go build the community where that 4-year-old boy and that 6-year-old little girl, they will have dreams, and they know there are possibilities, and they know they can do great things with their life. Everybody in with me right now? Yes. So I can't fix this. Not saying it's broken. I can't take it to the next level. I don't live here. And frankly, it's not my job. It's your job. You live here. Or those of you that support those who live here. So we have to be really disciplined in this. What did I learn tonight? So I'm better equipped to help the senior. So I'm better equipped to help the youth. So I'm better equipped to help the person who has no hope. Not enough to be a good-hearted, well-meaning person. Remember what I said to you last time. I will attack the doing of good deeds with an energy and enthusiasm rarely known to man. Because people are counting on us to do so. I cannot tell you how proud I am of you guys coming here at night, putting in your time, taking time from your families. It's awesome to see. It really is. It's awesome to see. And Ross, you said something very telling out there. You said, this is probably one of the most important meetings we have in this whole leadership boot camp. Last time, this group, wouldn't you agree? This group, you guys are an important piece in building a better region of Wood Buffalo and taking this community to a whole nother level. It'll start with you. It'll start with you, okay? So I sincerely appreciate you coming here, all right? And we're done. Have a good night. Say thank you, Tim. And thank you for the food, and thank you to Keanu, right? Keanu College for your help.